Hey, it is Kenny for Kenny's Audiophile Record Reviews. Thank you very much for viewing my channel. As always, if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe. That'll help me out. That'll be super cool. Help my small channel grow. Be much appreciated. In this video, I'm going to reveal my top 10 male singers of all time. My top 10 favorite or most talented male singers of all time. My top 10. I previously did a video, gosh, it could have been like a year and a half ago, maybe longer, of as of the posting of this video, my top 10 female singers of all time. If I can remember, I'll leave the link to that video in the description below. So it took me a while to get to this video, probably because, to be honest with you, I probably enjoy listening to the female voice on my stereo system far more better than the male voice. But there are some great male singers, so I'm gonna give my top 10 in this video. And also, before I give my top 10, I'm gonna give some what I like to call honorable mentions. Before that, and like I always say in my videos, these things are subjective and just personal opinion based. Some people don't like me giving that disclaimer at the beginning of the video. The reason why I do is because there are new people coming to my channel that haven't seen my channel before. And also, there's some people who take it far too seriously. I'm not here to, to solve world peace or cure every disease out there in the world. I'm just giving my top 10 male singers of all time. And some people take it too seriously. But like I said, some people don't like me giving that disclaimer at the beginning of my videos. I have no control of what people like or dislike. I just have to do what is in my best interest of my channel. And this is for the new viewers coming to my channel. But like I said, before I get to my top 10, I'm give some honorable mentions. Then I'm going to get to my top 10 male singers of all time. And part of my honorable mentions includes a singer like Tony Bennett. Had a magnificent voice, had longevity, sang, gosh, for decades. He had that smash hit, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. And that's not my favorite Tony Bennett song, by the way, but what a great singer Tony Bennett was. So he's an audible mention. Prince. What a talented artist he was, and I had to include him as well. Overall, great performer Prince was. Now, this is the Righteous Brothers. Came to 60s fame with all those hits. Songs like You Lost That Loving Feeling. But I'm mainly featuring the Righteous Brothers because of Bobby Hatfield and his voice. His performance on the song Ebb Tide was amazing. So I had to include the great voice of Bobby Hatfield in this video. Another one is Smokey Robinson, underrated voice, underrated singer. Oh, by the way, the song Quiet Storm is one of the greatest songs you can hear, especially the long version. Check it out on YouTube, Smokey Robinson's Quiet Storm, but look for the long version. The long version really stretches out the performance and the emotion and the vibe and groove of the song. That's the way it was meant to be heard. Smokey Robinson, he was with the Miracles, and he had a sensational voice. Smokey Robinson. Another one, an honorable mention, before I get to my top 10, is B.B. King. Sang with elite emotion, that song, The Thrill Is Gone. He was singing that song as if he lived the song. It was almost like part of him, with great soul and magnificent emotion. B.B. King, one of the greatest male singers to ever live. Guitar player, too. Had to include MJ because he was part of my childhood. Michael Jackson with the Jackson 5. Remember that great song, Ben, and all those magnificent Jackson 5 hits on through Thriller. Michael Jackson makes my honorable mentions list. Eddie Kendricks, formerly of the Temptations, had that elite falsetto voice. You can hit those high notes. So I had to include Eddie Kendricks, formerly of the Temptations, on my honorable mentions list. This person was a great jazz singer. He did a magnificent album with John Coltrane, and that is Johnny Hartman. He had that voice. He had that. If he was alive during this era, he probably could have did like voiceovers in television commercials. That's how great his voice was. Johnny Hartman. Underrated singer as well. Now, this is a singer from the group, the Fifth Dimension, and I'm mainly thinking about their lead singer, Billy Davis Jr. Sometimes when you're singing in a group, sometimes your talent gets buried in the act as a whole. But as a singer himself, he was tremendous. Billy Davis Jr. makes my honorable mentions list. That song, Let the Sun Shine In, forgot the official title. Tremendous in that song. Benny King, a great 60s soulful voice, had to make my honorable mentions list. I believe that song, Stand By Me. Benny King, great soulful voice. Now this artist was a great songwriter and singer. And he had that, and great musician too. Stevie Wonder, he had this period where he had like, 4 or 5 albums back to back to back to back that were just simply out of this world great. And this being the best of them. Matter of fact, on my top 10 list, this is the second best album ever made. The best being What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. But Stevie Wonder makes my honorable mentions list of male singers. Now this singer had a sweet voice and one of the greatest voices of all time. And I think in a modern sense, he might be actually underrated. And that's Elvis. Now he did not make my top 10. But what a spectacular performer and singer he was with that beautiful voice he had. I think my favorite era with Elvis is when he made that. I think he made a comeback around 1967, 1968. Maybe it was 1968. And my most favorite Elvis song is that song Memories. And you can just hear the beauty and the tone and the texture of his magnificent voice. Elvis. An honorable mention, but an amazing singer. Another one is from Simon and Garfunkel, but I'm mainly in this video focusing on Art Garfunkel and his beautiful tone and voice. Art Garfunkel. Although Simon is great, I think Garfunkel, just a purity of that fabulous voice comes across more so than Simon's, but they're both great singers, but Art Garfunkel for the purposes of this video. And there are others who could have made my top 10, like Freddie Mercury had one of the greatest rock voices of all time. Perhaps he should have made my top 10, but he didn't. But he was simply magnificent. William Hart of the Delphonics. Of those who have not heard William Hart, he was a singer in the group the Delphonics, and they had a great group, and he had a magnificent voice. You know, Pavarotti was superb. Just Mel Torme. Mel Torme has a song called "I'm Coming Home." I believe. If you have not heard Mel Torme sing the song "I'm Coming Home," he sings it almost like in a soulful R&B type style. Mel Torme, a fabulously underrated singer, in my opinion, and there's many, many, many more. There's some glaring omissions for sure on anybody's list. I know there's some glaring omissions of mine. That being said, I'm going to get to my top 10, and I'm cheating a little bit because at the 10th spot, it's a tie. It's almost like 11. And at the 10th spot is a tie with John Hendricks of Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross fame. He had this over-the-top, fantabulous scat-style type voice. He could sing in any style. In the late 60s, late 50s, early 60s, he was part of this super group, this super jazz vocal group, Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross. And man, he had this album he did with Manhattan Transfer in the early 80s. I think it's called Vocalist. If you ever heard that album, check it out. I think he won a Grammy for his work on the album. I believe, I could be wrong. Jon Hendricks is tied to number 10, one of the greatest jazz singers of all time. And also one of the greatest jazz singers of all time, and again, this is tied for number 10. Eddie Jefferson does not get the props he deserves in modern times. He was over-the-top, sensational jazz singer, and had a beautiful jazz voice where he could just maneuver and manipulate his voice to fit jazz compositions. Simply spectacular. So tied at number 10, Jon Hendricks and Eddie Jefferson, two great jazz singers. Now at number 9, and this dude. Oh, by the way, before I get to number 9, Harry Belafonte is an honorable mention too. If you have not heard Belafonte at Carnegie Hall, that is a tremendous audiophile record, by the way. Harry Belafonte deserves an honorable mention. But coming in at number 9, he doesn't get the props he deserves because of the style and the type of music he sang. But he was just straight up a tremendous singer. I think he's underrated because of the style and genre and the direction he went in as a singer. Brother James Brown. Soulful, tremendous, powerful. He put everything. If you watch his performances on YouTube, he didn't cheat the audience. He put everything into his performances. People got their money's worth, probably plus. James Brown coming in at number 9 on my top 10 male singers of all time. Number 9. Coming in at number 8, Ray Charles. He can sing any style. Jazz, R&B, heck, even country and western. Ray Charles. A tremendously powerful, soulful voice that has to be in my top 10. Ray Charles at number 8. Now we're at number 7. And that crown goes to the gentleman who is on I think, the greatest album of all time. And that's Marvin Gaye and his What's Going On album. Marvin Gaye is at number 7. And again, it's too bad he had to leave us too soon as well. He was, a sensationally tremendous performer. This What's Going On album is a work of art to a peak or zenith level. It really is. It's just a masterpiece. That's why I have it as the greatest album ever made. So Marvin Gaye is at number 7 on my list. And this, oh, by the way, is a Trouble Man album, which is a great album as well. Almost just as good as the What's Going On album. Now at number 6, this is going to be a very controversial pick. Because a lot of people have this brother at number 1 on their list. And for years I had him at number 1. And then, as I got older, I got to examine things a little bit more and investigate things a little bit more and listen to music a little bit more. So I had to discount him over the years. But he's a tremendous singer. Like this, a controversial pick at number 6, because a lot of people have a number 1. That's Frank Sinatra. I mean, this dude I had a conversation with my father, because my father had him as the best singer of all time. And at the time I had this conversation with my father, I did too. I no longer. But my father's comment about Frank Sinatra was, he was great, and he was great for a long time. There's some things that I don't forget that my father said over the years. And that's one thing I don't forget, is that Frank Sinatra was great. And I could see the emotion in my father's eyes. He said Frank Sinatra was great for a long time. And my parents were blessed to see Frank Sinatra in person. I didn't go with them. They brought the program home and gave it to me. I still have it to this day. It was pretty cool. But Frank Sinatra at number 6. Some of my favorite songs from him is, It Was a Very Good Year. And so many other great, tremendous songs. That's Life is way up there on my list. This album, I have it out because one of my viewers recommended that I listen to this album. This is mono. I have a mono cartridge to listen to it on. I'm going to check it out in the near future. Frank Sinatra, number 6. Hands down one of the greatest singers of all time. At number 5, a sweet, soulful voice. the legendary Sam Cooke coming in at number 5. Now, this is the first album I ever purchased. I didn't have to buy albums when I was younger because I had an older brother who was buying records when I was a little kid, so I was spending my money on Hot Wheels and other toys. He was buying the records so I can listen to his records. But this is the first record I've ever purchased, and it's Al Green. Let's Stay Together, I should say. Sorry about that. That comes in at number 4. Al Green, Let's Stay Together, comes in at number 4 on my list. Again, another soulful voice, another powerful voice, another emotional voice. He sang with control, constraint, and had a great timbre and detail to his voice. The reason why he didn't continue to elevate in terms of in the pop and R&B realm is because he went into ministry. Props for him doing that, because he gave up a lot of money going in that direction. But he is nonetheless, Al Green, number 4 on my top 10 male singers of all time. Now, there's going to be another controversial pick because I have this singer above or ahead of Frank Sinatra, and it's going to be very controversial, I know for sure. But this brother has one of the most beautiful, most purest voices of all time. He sang with great control. If you ever saw the Andy Williams show, I just gave it away. The Andy Williams show, he had great control of his beautiful instrument called a voice, and this is one of the greatest voices I've heard in my entire life. So Andy Williams at number 3 on my list, and I think, in my opinion, I know this is going to be a controversial statement, I think he was a better singer than Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra was just more famous than Andy Williams, but fame does not make you a great singer. A great voice does. Andy Williams, I think, had a better voice than Frank Sinatra's, in my opinion. So I have him at number 3. Andy Williams at number 3 in my top 10 list. And number 2, I have Nat the King Cole. That's right, Nat King Cole at number 2 on my list. A beautifully spectacular voice that was just over the top, sensational. I think I read somewhere, heard somewhere, he was a heavy smoker. So if that's true, it's amazing he had a great voice given that terrible addiction of smoking. And at number 1, now I've seen this artist, gosh, twice in the 80s in person. I've heard his recordings many times, and I think he's the greatest male singer who ever lived. And that is the great and magnificent Luther Vandross. In my opinion, he's the greatest singer who ever lived. It just, in person or in record or in, CD, digital format, the greatest voice I've ever heard. Luther Vandross. Like I said, I've seen him in person, heard him on my system many times. Luther Vandross, I think, is the greatest male singer of all time. That's my top 10 and some honorable mentions. Like I said, there's going to be some glaring omissions on anybody's list. Now, some of you guys are going to hit me up with, hey, Kenny, you forgot this singer. What about him? That's inevitable on anybody's list. But that's just mine. Please leave your comments in the comment section below. And also, if I remember, I will leave my Frank Sinatra record album collection video in the description below. I'm a huge Frank Sinatra fan. He just didn't make break my top 5. But please leave your comments in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe. Thank you very much for viewing. God bless, strong love, and keep the peace worldwide.